I've had people point to the welfare policies of the 1960s, President Johnson's war on poverty, and say that's why African Americans are poor. Or, that's why African Americans are unemployed. Or, that's why African American families fell apart. If the government hadn't tried to help, they'd be doing much better. So is it true? Did the war on poverty make things worse? From 1970 through 1990, Black Americans continued to make up roughly 60% of representations of poverty in the media, even though they seldom made up more than 30% of America's poor. In 1983, when pictures of white families suddenly spiked all the way up to 70%. What happened in 82 and 83? The worst recession in a generation, combined with threatened cutbacks to social programs by the Reagan administration. As soon as the recession ended, journalistic focus returned to stories of wasteful spending and portrayals of poor urban Black families. Poverty in America went back to being Black. Why does this matter? Because poverty in America isn't a uniquely Black problem. To this day, African American families make up less than 30% of America's poor and receive only about a third of government spending on poverty programs. 70% of our spending goes to white and Latino families. Yet when we think about helping the poor, we think of handouts to African American mothers with multiple kids and no husbands living in the inner city. Why? Because those are the images we've been shown over and over. And here's the sad reality of lingering racism in America. The more we think of poverty as a Black problem, the less we want to help. It isn't us, after all, it's them. And very old tropes about African Americans being lazy and irresponsible rear their ugly heads to make us less compassionate. And as Christians, called time and time again in Scripture to care for the poor, this is nothing less than tragic. Interestingly, there's another ethnic group in America that matches African Americans on almost every metric. Unemployment for this group is even higher. Non-marital births are nearly as high. Single-parent homes nearly as high. What ethnic group is it? Native Americans. Think about it. These are the only two groups of people that weren't given a choice whether or not to live in white America. The only two groups that have been actively and consistently treated unjustly by European settlers since before there even was an America. And today they are the two groups whose communities are marked the most by poverty, unemployment, and addiction. Is it just a coincidence that we see the most dramatic breakdown of family structure in the two communities that have faced the most historic injustice?